Murder.
Chalk outlines.
DNA tests.
Blood.
Anonymous tip.
Beheadings and disembowelments.
Fingerprints.
The yellow tape that they have on crime scenes.
Witness statements.
Stakeouts with my cop friend and we drink coffee. UV lights that they can see on 5 minutes.
All right, true crime in 5 minutes. Belle, what do you got this time?
Today I want to talk about a very famous Melbourne murder from the 1920s. And kind of weird because I've been familiar with this story for a while now. Like I said, it's quite famous in Melbourne. But I recently visited the Melbourne jail and saw the cell that the criminal from this story was kept in.
Whoa.
And where he was hung in the end. And it was really weird, but it just brought it all back for me, and I realised that I haven't shared this one with you before. So like I said, we're going back to the 20s in Melbourne CBD. A beautiful little girl named Alma Turchke. She was 12 years old. Unfortunately, she went out one day to go and this sounds real 1920s vibe. She walked from her grandmother's house into the city to go to the butcher and grab a big pack of meat. So her grandma sent her off and she went. She was set to be home by, a few hours later. And she was a very independent, very confident girl, went into the CBD and never came back. Obviously, the family were very, very scared and worried about her. Her body was found less than 24 hours later, the next morning, in an alleyway in the CBD. This alleyway was called Gun Alley back in the day. And yes, I have tried to find it and it doesn't exist anymore. There is an alley that sounds like it's the one, but it's completely unnamed now. And that's where they found her in the next morning. She was found, she was strangled to death and it was very, very horrific.
Just quickly, you want to go to that alley?
Absolutely. It's part of history and you'll see why. So she was found there and, of course, the investigation started straight away. But we are talking about the 20s where they didn't have DNA. They didn't have all the technology we have now. In fact, all the way down to they had to see which police officers were doing the street checks at night, which they did back in the day with gas.
Who was running the beat?
Yeah, exactly.
Beat cops.
They had gas lanterns and some got torches, but only few. Most had lanterns and they would walk down alleyways and back.
You really hope you weren't committing a crime and a torch cop got you.
Totally. Well, the sad reality is that that could have happened. This person could have been caught while they were doing this to Alma, but they didn't because the police officers at the time were quite lazy and they walked past the laneway and just went, she'll be right, nothing's happening down there, and kept walking. So that was the first part that was okay, big miss. So fingers started getting pointed to a man called Colin Ross. Colin Ross was the owner of the Australian Wine Saloon. Sadly, doesn't exist anymore. I did look that up as well. The Australian Wine Saloon was located in the Eastern Arcade near Collins Street. So there was an arcade and in there was this wine saloon, so just a bar. He was the owner of that, but he was only in his mid to late 20s. Very young man, apparently very charming, very nice, ran it, very warm and friendly bar, welcomed everybody in, and people started saying that they saw Alma, a young 12-year-old redhead girl, in this bar. And so everybody started pointing fingers at him. Now, again, this is in the days where it was just, I saw him doing this, I saw him doing that.
All eyewitness stuff.
Correct.
Yeah.
And anyone that said anything, the police would go, oh, really? Okay, great. Put that on the file. There's no real fingerprinting and checking going on. So all the fingers are being pointed at Colin Ross. He got done for this purely based on the fact that someone said they saw him there and with her. He, of course, denied this. The whole time he denied and said he's completely innocent. They then went to his house. And remember how I said, so she had beautiful red hair. They went to his house. They found a blanket and there was a red hair on the blanket.
Okay.
And they said, well, that's it. You've done it. You murdered her. You dumped her body horribly. And we've got this blanket that was at the wine saloon. You've brought it home and it's got a red hair on it. He's like, are you kidding? As if that's any proof. He got hung at Melbourne jail. He was kept in Melbourne jail for a while. unfortunately, like he kept a whole diary, which you can go and see, and he had a Bible that he wrote in. They used a new type of rope, which took 20 minutes for him to die. So he was hanging there for 20 minutes before
What do you mean they used a new type of rope?
It was like a 4-string rope, apparently. So
And that takes longer to hang someone?
yeah, and they never used it again. He was like the guinea pig for it, and they went,
Because it was
"Ooh."
thicker, maybe? It took longer?
I don't know. I haven't looked into it, that part of it, but yeah, they used it once on him, and they said not great, and didn't use it again. Now, time passed. Everybody on his side of the family and friends, of course, backed him in and said he was completely innocent and he should not have been
Wild,
hung.
hey, back in the day that you could just get
Totally.
like, I mean, I know you can be wrongly convicted now, but it's like, I saw her and there's a red hair
Yeah.
and you can be killed for
Oh,
it.
and trust me, because we're doing this in 5 minutes, there's so many people
Oh, of
pointing
course.
fingers. Fast forward to the 90s. So he's been dead for a while.
Just don't worry about that alarm. I'm so
The
intrigued. with this.
90s, a man called Kevin Morgan decided, you know what? Let's look into this further. We've got technology now.
Is Kevin Morgan a cop?
He was an author and then, just started working with the cops, and they reopened the whole case and they found the hair, this red hair that basically got Colin Ross hung.
Yeah.
What do you mean, like in an evidence locker or something?
Yep.
They
They found the
kept it.
hair
Wow.
and they did the DNA test.
Was it
It
like a
wasn't
cat?
even
Was
her.
it a cat or
Wasn't
something?
hers at all. What? Not just a random person. And of course, it was their
That's
house. So they said we
crazy.
always had people over. People used to sit on this blanket on the couch all the time. And actually, a person reassessed this hair and said, even from looking at it, you can tell it's a completely different type of hair from Alma's. So then his name was officially cleared, and he's now
Great.
innocent.
He got
You can-
hung 50 years before, you know?
Yep, you can go to Melbourne jail and see the whole story about him and see photos of him and his cell.
Hang on, who killed her?
We don't know.
Ah.
Because yet again, fingers are pointed, they prosecute him, they hang him and go, done. And nobody looks anywhere else.
Bad, isn't it?
And this poor young girl who went through a horrific, and I mean horrific death, she's got no justice. She was left in an alleyway by who knows?
Well, there's two victims,
There's
isn't it? 'Cause
one
his
person-
Old mate got done for it
Correct.
as well, you know?
And like I said, he was a young man in his 20s. The only other person that later people started suspecting was her cousin's husband. Apparently he was quite creepy, and Alma's sister later came out and said, yes, he tried to do things to me. He was very inappropriate, and said that Alma used to be very scared of him.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So, yeah.
What
but
about the
nothing-
butcher? Did they look into the butcher?
I don't know. They
That's
didn't
where
say
she was
anything about
headed.
the butcher.
You know, I'm no detective, but
Well,
we should go and ask that. Oh, that butcher's dead.
I think the butcher's dead, yeah. Oh, look, another intriguing story, Belle. Shame it didn't have a, ending on it.
Yeah.
But that's
yeah.
the way the cookie crumbles sometimes with true crime.
That's true.
Catch you in the next one.